Hello everyone, welcome back to Just My Stupid Opinion, continuing our coverage of the Nova Scotia massacre that ended up taking place. It's actually been about a week now since it all went down. And, my last video we were covering the timeline, specifically covering the timeline from the point where Constable Stevenson ended up getting shot and killed up to the point all the way at the Enfield gas station there, and the discrepancies in the official story and the amount of time that it takes to get all the way down there. And honestly, the discrepancies are just getting even worse because there was a press report that was put out by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police yesterday, April 24th, 2020, and this is causing more problems with the timeline as well as a direct lie as to what they're saying. This is also because of what was reported in the National Post, and we're going to get into that. I want to analyze some of the pictures at that scene where Heidi Stevenson was killed, look at some of the video, sort of get into it. So, first things first is I want to start off with this stupid advertisements. I want to start off with talking about this press release that the RCMP put out and the problems that are in there. So let's get into it. So here we are from April 24th, 2020, as you can see up here. And we're not going to go through the whole thing. There's specific areas that I've gone through and I want to talk about. They've broken this up into what they're calling clusters, the areas where this all took place. So we're looking at a little bit of cluster 1 and a little bit of cluster 3. So as it's talking here, and this is where they're starting off, where everything began at Portapique. So what it says here is, what we learned as part of our investigation is that on April 18th, before the first call came in there, was an assault between the gunman and a person known to him in Portapique. Now, this person that they're referencing is his ex-girlfriend, apparently. And she was tied up by Wortman, but then managed to escape. See, Wortman, for some reason, didn't kill her. And the more and more we're learning about Wortman, he seems to be a guy that carries grudges. And if he had the reasoning in his mind to go and assault his girlfriend and tie her up, then why didn't he kill her? That's the first question. And apparently she escaped from the ties and managed to escape. And it says here, the victim managed to escape from the gunman and hid overnight in the woods. Now this causes the first little bit of problems because this ex-girlfriend of his isn't the only one that apparently was hiding in the woods that night. You guys probably remember this man here, Clinton Ellison, the man who lost his brother in the shooting. See, he says something very interesting about what happened to him, because he had the same thing. He found his brother on the road, and then he was chased by the gunman, to which he went into the woods, and he hid there for 4 hours. Now, another thing, actually, I want to point out real quick, is apparently the police officers arrived on the scene at 10:26 p.m., and yet this man was forced to wait in the woods for 4 hours before, as he put it, an RCMP armored vehicle got him out. So what the hell were the cops doing for 4 hours? I mean, I know you got to go around and make sure, sort of clear the area, but the point is there are people that entire time Clinton was saying that he was hearing gunshots and explosions that were happening all in the area. And during that time, apparently the RCMP was allowing it to happen from the sound of it. But more to the point, remember, the ex-girlfriend was hiding in the woods overnight. Listen to what Clinton ended up saying about this situation, about what happened to him. So at this point in the interview, he just said that he's hiding in the woods. He contacted his father and told him to call the police, and he said, "Don't call me again because I don't want my phone to light up. The guy's searching for me." So, this is what he says.
Laid on the ground, and I nearly froze to death. I had to get out of the great village fire hall and recover from hypothermia and everything. I'm in shock so bad.
I just wanted to quickly check, make sure audio was working. But did you hear what he just said about that?
Yes, I will. I said, don't call me back. I don't want my phone to light up. And I laid on the ground, and I nearly froze to death. I had to get out of the Great Village Fire Hall and recover from hypothermia. And
He had to recover from hypothermia from lying in the woods for 4 hours. Now, apparently, this victim was hiding in there for the entire night. So it was clearly a cold night. And as we can tell from just looking at Clinton here, he's most likely a much more burly guy than whoever this ex-girlfriend is. A guy that has more muscle and more fat on him, who produces more body heat, and he had to recover from hypothermia. Now, it was apparently this ex-girlfriend that ended up labeling Wortman, that told him who it was, and this is how the RCMP ended up knowing. But there's no reference or anything else about how she had to hide in the woods. Did she suffer from hypothermia? This guy nearly froze to death, and he was there for 4 hours. She stayed there overnight, and as way it made it seem, walked out of there no problem. So that's the first little discrepancy, as well as the fact they were on the scene nice and early. And again, on the scene nice and early, had the entire area cordoned off, yet Wortman managed to escape. The shooting was continuing, and yet most of these cops were sitting back in town, not actually in the vicinity. But moving on, we're getting into Cluster 3 now. Now, this has to do with Constable Morrison and Constable Stevenson, and the death that ended up taking place. So for this, I want to switch over quickly to the National Post over there and what they had to say about this. Because, once again, it screws with the timeline. So as we see here, please excuse me right now. My cat is being loud tonight and he's in the room, so you may hear him. There he goes. We'll see. RCMP Constable Chad Morrison, Stevenson's partner that survived, injured but survived. RCMP Constable Chad Morrison was waiting in his police cruiser for Constable Heidi Stevenson to join him at the intersection of Highway 2 and Highway 224 in Shubenacadie in central Nova Scotia as a frantic manhunt unfolded for a killer. So, that was, if you remember, it was this area right here. Now, as far as I can tell, it seems like it's up here where Morrison was attacked, because this is where things get a little bit confusing. Hold on, let me remove that. Is because this is Highway 224 right here. This is also Highway 224 down here. And then Highway 2, Jesus, hold on. And Highway 2, for Christ's sake, there we go, is this street right down here that comes up off the on-ramp and the off-ramp and leads down here and continues up north. So this is, from what I can tell, it seems to me that I've kind of color-coded it, but we've got in the green the rough area where Morrison's car was. It's probably more likely he was on Highway 2, just pulled off to the shoulder, and he was just right at that intersection, just making sure that, keeping it under lock, basically. Now, in the red, we have what is supposed to be Wortman's direction. And then down here in the blue is where, I believe, from what I can tell, is where Stevenson was. Where Heidi Stevenson was. So probably the X in the box over here is probably her rough location she was sitting, and then the direction that she headed in order to go and meet up with Morrison. Now, what ended up happening, and this will go on to say, is that it was around 10:45 Sunday morning, April 19th, and both officers knew of the perplexing and frightening update issued at dawn. Blah, 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 looking for an RCMP officer. If the two constables hadn't been talking over the radios to arrange their rendezvous, it seems likely Morrison would have been on high alert when an RCMP cruiser approached from the north, but he thought it was his colleague. couple questions there. They were planning to meet at this point and said, okay, let's rendezvous together, figure this out. I get the feeling that Morrison would know Stevenson's rough location, and if nothing else, I'm sure, especially considering that this guy was dressed like an RCMP officer, was driving around in an RCMP car, that it's likely that if they were planning to meet up, and if Stevenson was coming to Morrison, she would have signaled what direction she's coming from, which would have been from the south. So to me, this could be nothing, but this sort of seems a little weird to me. You figure that they would have said, like, hey, I'm coming to you, I'm coming from the south, just to be safe. But there's something more important I want to check out. It was around 10:45 Sunday morning, April 19th. Was it now? Was it 10:45? Because if you remember from yesterday, remember in the last video, where is it? The surveillance footage was taken right here. Seamus and I proved this. With the help of Rage in a Cage, with the help of Steve LTT, we proved this. Let's play it again. There it is. And if you remember from yesterday, the concrete block and the house, which we can verify once again. Oh, back over here, the red shed, we've got the concrete block there, and we've got our house right over here. So we confirmed where the location is. It's much farther north than the area of Shubenacadie. Probably another, if I had to guess, I'm turned around. I had to guess maybe a 10-15 minute drive at least, maybe more. Look at the video footage again. Look at the time. 10:55 a.m. on the 19th of April. So now they're saying the shooting happened before this video footage was taken, and yet this video footage was farther north. So unless this guy somehow doubled back and towards the north, and then once again doubled back heading south, how could this have happened? But then he would have had to do that all within a 10-minute stretch at least. Very unlikely that that's the way that would have gone down. So their time isn't even right. We know for a fact that 10 minutes after this time frame they've given at 10:45, that he was much farther north. And the thing is even according to the RCMP, what happened after this shooting is that he actually took, so the shooting happened somewhere around right here, roughly. I like my red color, so I'm switching back. So the shooting happened somewhere around right here. Heidi Stevenson is killed. But they even report that he then takes the 224 highway heading south after the shooting. So they're deliberately lying about the time frame here. And one of the reasons is because they're aware. They're very much aware that you cannot make it from this location all the way down to the Enfield gas station in the official allotted time. This is also changing because they've said previously that it was somewhere up here. It was around this area over here where the video surveillance footage was taken, and then it was about 11:04 when he found himself in, I think it was Brookfield over here, or Millbrook. But anyway, the point is that all this, the video footage and the time frame of him being at, it was either Brookfield or Millbrook. Well, I think it was Brookfield. That was after this shooting took place, despite the fact it's much farther south. So they've just messed with the timeline again. That doesn't work. 10:55 a.m. on the 19th. So they're either much more incompetent than we're aware of, or they're deliberately lying. And my guess is on the latter. They're deliberately lying. Now, the shooting. The shooting that ended up happening. We have video here of the situation.
Oh, baby, we're right on the scene.
This is fucked.
I wonder if we should even be right here.
This is so fucked.
He's in that car.
He's in that car. They're dragging him out. Look, they're dragging somebody. Oh my god. That's a
real cop, huh? He just killed a real cop right in front of us.
Oh my god. Oh god.
Oh my god.
Oh my fuck. This is fucking crazy.
Is he in there?
I'm like shaking. We should move. Like, what if he's alive and he like shoots?
Okay. So that's our video. Let's continue with this RCMP article here. Constable Morrison thought the vehicle was Constable Stevenson. The approaching police vehicle was actually driven by the gunman, said Superintendent Darren Campbell of the Nova Scotia RCMP. The gunman pulled up beside Constable Morrison and immediately opened fire. Constable Morrison received several gunshot wounds. I mean, off the start, they more or less made it appear as if like the first time we heard about this, they made it appear as if it was a single gunshot wound to Corporal Morrison's arm. That's the way it made it appear, but that could be not much of a big deal. Now, the thing is that I have a question about is, let's go back to here. It's most likely, my guess, from the way that they're actually talking about, that's just a rough location as to where he'd be. But again, he was probably most likely pulled over on the shoulder right around here. Now, they say that our suspect, Wortman, drove up here, paused next to him, and opened fire upon him. Now, I could see it with some of the wounds that he ended up having, that it kind of does line up on the left-hand side. If you look over here, is you can see that he's got the cast on the left arm, and then he's got bandages over here. I'm not sure why. But they say he received several gunshot wounds. Now, a couple things about this is that the cast makes sense, because if he is on the driver's side and Morrison pulls up on his left, most likely he probably ducked down. You know, he ducked down, his left arm kind of comes up, probably got shot there. That makes sense. I don't see how the right arm could have gotten wounded if it's a gunshot wound, because, well, his right arm would be protected. Maybe they're making reference to is that he got hit in his bulletproof vest. That's a possibility. The problem is a bulletproof vest is designed to protect your front and your back. You know, when it comes to your side over here, like your ribs and stuff, you're pretty well exposed. So, it doesn't make sense to me quite that he got multiple gunshot wounds, but maybe I'm just focusing on semantics. Maybe something, it's not a big deal. You know? Let me close this for now. But my question more than anything, and I think this is a valid question to ask, the reports are saying that our suspect, well, that our gunman, Wortman, that Wortman was using a shotgun and a long rifle. That's what he had to pull off this killing. A shotgun and a long rifle being maneuvered and operated inside of a car? Does that make much sense to you? Those are not easy to use. I mean, it's possible, but those are not easy to use, not easy to operate in a confined space like that. Maybe, once again, I'm focusing on a very small issue here, but it seems to me that, sure, he could have used it, absolutely, not very well, at least. Maybe the shotgun out of everything. If there was one thing he used, most likely shotgun, not the long rifle. I would be shocked if he managed to use the long rifle to pull off this shooting. But then he proceeds southbound on the number 2 highway. Heidi Stevenson, hearing her partner radio in, because her partner apparently managed to escape and said he was leaving. It's not clear exactly how, because even if he was a little farther back, let's say, even if he was somewhere around here, let me just eliminate some of the last little bit. Even if he was, say, over here, Wortman pulled up right next to him. So maybe he could have, I suppose he probably could have reversed, but it's unlikely that his car is in reverse on the highway. So his 2 options, from what I can tell, are to proceed this way on the 224 or to proceed straight. Now, I think between the two, just judging by the reports we're going on, he probably took a left, but that still seems like he's putting himself at risk, possibly even blocked off, depending where he is from making that turn. Small little things, but I think these are important questions to ask. And then after the shooting, Wortman continues down the highway. Continues. And this again is where I'm getting confused. Because the natural move would have been to use the off-ramp here. If he wanted to get off the highway, if he wanted to get off here. But that's not apparently what he did. Apparently, he crossed over the wrong lane of traffic and proceeded the wrong way off the off-ramp. Or I guess in this case it's the on-ramp, just as Heidi Stevenson is coming up here. Does that make sense to you? Does that make sense to you? Because we know it was on the ramp here, that where this took place. But why would he try and use the wrong direction ramp when he has a perfectly good option going the proper direction over here? That doesn't make sense to me. But the point is, the two somewhere around this area or a little bit earlier than that, maybe somewhere around here, they ended up apparently hitting each other. So it wasn't a pit maneuver, according to the RCMP, but it was a headlong collision. They slammed into each other. As she headed north on Highway 2, the gunman headed south on the same stretch of road. They collided head-on. Did they? This is after the fact. These are the two vehicles. One is Heidi Stevenson's. One is Wortman's. Do either of those, they must have been proceeding at least decent speeds. You know, they don't have to be speeding. They don't have to be going anything crazy like 100 kilometers an hour. But you're still on the highway. Heidi Stevenson just found out that her partner had been shot, so she's probably moving pretty quickly. Wortman is trying to escape the scene after shooting an officer, so they're probably at least going at a decent pace, even if it's 40 kilometers an hour. Do either of those cars look like they've just been on a head-on collision? Because it doesn't to me. These cars, in my opinion, don't have the damage at the front. It doesn't look like they actually had a head-on collision. But that's what's being claimed. Not a pit maneuver. Something about this doesn't add up. It is not known whether the gunman intentionally rammed the approaching cruiser or if Stevenson tried to stop him with the car. In any event, neither Stevenson nor the gunman were completely incapacitated by the collision. Definitely possible. Although, again, if they're depending on the speeds they're traveling, the possibility seems to diminish the faster you're going. But anyway, that's what we're going with. Constable Stevenson engaged the gunman. The gunman took Constable Stevenson's life. He also took Constable Stevenson's issued sidearm and her magazines. Now again, when I look at this, it seems to me like Constable Heidi Stevenson had the advantage in this situation because they've both been in an accident. Now, they've got to get out of their vehicles and engage each other, right? Heidi Stevenson has a sidearm, a pistol. Much easier to draw and maneuver and get shots off than it is for pretty much what Wortman would have had to do. Is he would have had to get out. He would have had this big, long, probably the shotgun, my guess is between that and the long rifle. He would have to, clunkily get it out of the side of the car. He'd have to get it on her and aim, and he would have to fire. She would have the advantage of maneuverability. She would have the advantage of speed. She would have the advantage of fire rate. Wortman would have had the advantage of firepower. The shotgun's more powerful, depending on the type of bullet of rounds that he's using. It may have been a buckshot, so it spreads out. But anyway, she seems like she has the advantage here. They gloss over the depth of what happened. They just say he took Constable Stevenson's life. And even down here, it doesn't really go into description as to what happened if we're going back to the RCMP statement. Yeah, all they do is say, at that point, both vehicles collided head-on. Constable Stevenson engaged the gunman. The gunman took Constable Stevenson's life. He also took Constable Stevenson's gun and magazines. Now, it's quite possible, definitely, that he took Stevenson's firearm. I'm also starting to wonder, though, that what if this kind of plays into the theory that Seamus and I have been working on, as well as the others, Rage in a Cage and Steve LTT. It's the fact that what if Wortman had been, since he had RCMP uniform, he had an RCMP vehicle, what if he had his hands on RCMP weaponry? Because again, Wortman did not have the ability to get access to firearms. So the chances of these being legal firearms are very low. So did he get them off the black market? Who did he get these firearms from? So what if these turned out to be RCMP firearms that he was using? I get the feeling that getting an RCMP vehicle would have been the hardest part of that whole situation. But he got it. He even had the uniform. What if he had the weapons? Just a theory. And then from here, they're claiming that a driver stopped in a silver SUV. The gunman approached and shot the driver dead. He then set both Constable Stevenson's damaged cruiser and his own replica cruiser ablaze. He took the passerby's SUV and continued on, heading south on Highway 224. There we go. So we can remove all this. So he continued down this way, down the highway. Now, maybe he did that because what could have happened is if the silver car, we'll just do it in green this time, if the silver car was making its way up the ramp there, and then let's just say for the sake of argument it was here that they ended up getting shot, he could have taken the vehicle up here and continued down the highway without a doubt. Thing is, though, it seems like the RCMP, as soon as they heard from Morrison that he'd been shot, that they would have this whole area at least converging on the situation. And we know that they did, because they had their TAC units, their tactical officers show
Oh,
up.
baby, we're right on the scene.
This is fun.
And the thing is, why did he burn the vehicles? This is the part I'm not understanding. What evidence did he have to hide? This guy was not trying to get away with it. This is not how the mentality of someone who does a shooting like this works. This is not like the drive-by shootings in Toronto, where the whole point is to take out your enemy and get the hell away to continue doing whatever gangster shit you want to do. When you're going on a rampage like this, you've pretty much accepted that this is not going to end with you getting away. It's going to end with most likely your death, but at least your incarceration. What relevance does burning the vehicle does? If anything, it takes up more time. He's just shot at Officer Morrison just up the road, not far up the road. But he's going to take the time, and he just got into another shootout, so definitely attracting attention. He's going to take the time to burn the cars down. And the claim is that he burned both their cars down. I don't know about you, but when I look at this, it looks like one car is on fire right now, but, you know, it could just be the angle possibly that we can't tell that the other car is on fire, because we can at least tell from the pictures, I think it's this one, pictures over here, that both these cop cars have been set ablaze. And wait a minute. Oh, never mind, actually. See, I'm wondering something here. You know, the other day we were kind of analyzing this, and we were saying, what is this purple car over here, or what is it doing? Now I'm starting to wonder as I'm looking at it, that looks like possibly a red vehicle, maybe the red Mazda, because this is the new thing that they've tacked on to this situation. That the gunman traveled south on Highway 224 for a short distance, where he entered a home on the east side of Highway 224. That home happened to be the home of a woman known to the gunman. The gunman shot and killed the female resident. The gunman then removed the police clothing he was wearing. For some reason he decided to change out of it and change to something new. Where did he get these clothes? Did she have male clothes out there? Did they just happen to fit him? But he removed the police clothes he was wearing and transferred his weapons to the female victim's vehicle, which was a red Mazda 3. Is this our vehicle right here? Did the silver vehicle not even exist? But this looks to me like it might be a red Mazda. I don't know, but that's just kind of, as I'm looking at it now, and they've mentioned that it was a red Mazda, maybe this is our vehicle. But I'm still looking at this. I'm still looking at this video here. And something doesn't add up to me. Because I don't see. These people look to be on the scene pretty damn quick. These police officers here. But Wortman somehow still managed to escape. And who was the one who got killed? Because at least so far, I'm not sure who is in the silver SUV over here. The passerby's SUV. That's what doesn't make sense to me. And I'm still looking at this. And it seems to me like there's more going on here. They apparently don't know whether Wortman's there or whether he's gone, yet they're not really acting in the proper way. They've just dragged Heidi Stevenson's body back here, as we can see. We kind of pointed out yesterday. And it's just, with what we know that happened at the fire department, which was, I think, over here. Yeah, this was an article. RCMP shot at fire hall during Nova Scotia rampage, but suspects wasn't there, watchdogs say. The Onslow Belmont Fire Hall was being used at a time by the Emergency Management Office as a registration area for evacuees from the Portapique Beach area who had fled their community just hours earlier. Joy McCabe, who lived next to the fire hall, said she looked out Sunday to see a police car pull up and two men dressed like police officers get out. They whipped out their guns and started firing in the direction of the building. I ducked down and yelled at my husband to get down, said McCabe. I am still scared. She said she heard 6 shots. When she looked up again, she saw a man crouched down between 2 cars. Soon after the shots rang out, the men in the RCMP uniform and the man inside between the cars left. It's unclear where they went. So we know that the RCMP already shot at a fire hall that was supposed to house refugees from Portapique who just went through this ordeal. And it seems to me like it's the possibility that these guys may have gotten just a little too trigger happy. But then, was Wortman killed here? Did he escape? And was it over here? It's unclear, but it looks to us like over down here by the back wheel of a car, there's the body. There's a body, and is that Heidi Stevenson? I mean, it's most likely Heidi Stevenson. But we're kind of looking at this, and this looks like when we were kind of analyzing it, it seems like this might be later on. That this wasn't in fact when this where was it? The video we were analyzing. Like, it looks like it may have been after this situation, because it looks like the cops are moving out from their position over here. And where are the other officers? We know some made it into the ditch here on the left, but then there's no body there. I'm just trying to make sense of this situation because I don't believe what we're being told. They've already lied about the timeline. They said this happened at 10:45 a.m. Could not have happened at that time. And it looks like these people had witnessed the murder that happened again. Because when we look at with a full volume, what do they say?
This is fucked.
I wonder if we should even be right here.
This is so fucked.
He's in that car.
He's in that car. They're dragging him out. Look, they're dragging somebody. Oh my god. That's a
real cop, huh? He just killed a real cop right in front of us.
So I think the guy said he just killed a real cop right in front of us. It could have been they just killed a real cop right in front of us. But this looks like it may have happened it may have happened after this picture, but it's tough to tell. It's really tough to tell. There may be another cruiser right in front of this one over here. And yet in this one, it looks like there's only one on the scene. It's really tough to make out exactly what's happening in there. But this new timeline that they've laid out doesn't add up. It actually makes it even worse. It makes it even worse, but we know why. Because they ended up releasing, and I think it's in here. Yeah. They said when the officers exited the Big Stop Irving in Enfield, while he was at the gas pumps, one of our tactical resources came into the gas station to refuel their vehicle. When the officers exited the vehicle, there was an encounter, and the gunman was shot and killed by police at 11:26 a.m. So when we know how long it took to get down there, this is most likely the reasoning that they... Sorry, forgot to turn off the intro. This is most likely the reasoning as to why they changed the timeline. And they made it some... I guess that would be about... What is that, 40 minutes? I guess that's 40 minutes a little bit later. Because the thing is, too, is this guy had to move away. He had to also stop in at this home on the east side of Highway 224 and kill this person. And I'm not sure if he set the house on fire. But he needed to get into the encounter with Heidi Stevenson, stop in at this home to kill the woman that lives there, and then make his way down to the gas station with the red Mazda 3. Which, I gotta say, it begs the question, if he switched into a car, it happens, but how many of you have a car and you stop in at your home when you don't have gas, that your car needs gas? So he pretty much had to jump in the red Mazda, make his way down to the gas station, and then make his way down to the gas station and immediately. So that doesn't add up. And I want to also take a quick look over at the last video that we had. So it was over here. So he's driving a red Mazda, right?
Trav.
They got the killer right here. They got him on lockdown. They're going for him right now. They got
Do you see... Keep your eyes open. Do you see a red Mazda anywhere?
the killer right here. Oh, they got him, bud. They shot him. I heard the 4 shots. I heard the 4 shots, bud.
Because the car they're all crowding around is the Subaru over here. And even in the background, that doesn't... I'm kind of making... I can't really make out the model, the brand in the background, but where is this red Mazda? Because apparently he was at the pumps filling her up when he got in this encounter. So where's the red Mazda? Let's see. No red Mazda. Is that it? Does that say a Mazda 3 right there? And if it does, that's not red. Okay, we'll keep that on the back burner. Anyway, keep plugging through. Oh, I forgot to switch over the screen. I had a boomer moment. So what I was making reference to is where's the Mazda? Because here's the Subaru that they were kind of crowding around. And then I'm looking at this over here. Is this the Mazda 3? It looks like it might be. That might say Mazda 3 on there. Can't really make out the brand very well, though. But That's not a red car, is it? I thought I had another picture from the area. I can't really see much from there. But keep plugging away, everyone, because we need to get as much information on this as possible. Like I said, I don't believe a single... at this point, I don't really believe anything that they're telling me. And I think one of the reasons that they needed to update everything, update their timeline, is because it didn't add up to the time frame when he could get down to the Enfield gas station, especially if he stopped off and killed this woman in her home. Aside for that, I'm gotta admit, I'm still not completely convinced that the RCMP may not have gunned down one of their own constables. I think it's still something with the new information that needs to be discussed a little bit more, which I'm sure Seamus and I will be doing probably tomorrow. But at this point, I'm still not convinced with everything that I've seen. Keep plugging away. Keep finding the information that you can find. And if you have anything, please send it to one of us. You can send it to me on Twitter at redbloodedleaf, or you can also send it to me at I'm very bad for checking emails, but I'm going to try and be better. So it's, hold on, I'll adjust in just a second. I will adjust her in just a second. So I'm very bad at checking my emails, even my own personal emails. But that is my email address for the channel. justmystupidopinion@gmail.com. Don't forget the periods in between each word. Anything you come across, you can send it to me there. Twitter's a more direct way to get it done, so I would recommend that. But that is also another option for you. If you come across anything, please send it to us. We would definitely like to know and like to analyze as much as we can. So take care, everyone. And I know Seamus and I will be back again very soon, giving more updates on what we found. Take care.